And then when I finally got to the Bronx, and that was about mile 18, that's when I hit what runners call the wall. At mile 18, I hit the wall. And all I could think about was, I want to stop. I want to quit. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can finish. And as I kept running through the streets, and I literally felt, and this is bringing me back to that time where I started to feel like the walls were closing in on me. It was so overwhelming and exhausting. And from that point on, believe it or not, it was less about the physical part of making it to the finish line, but it was more about the mental mindset to get me through the pain and determination to the finish line. Hey there, it's Suzanne Oshima, life coach for women in midlife, and your fellow sister on a mission to empower and inspire you through the twists and turns of midlife. I'm here to help you transform it into your best life with the Life Is Now, Do It While You Can podcast. We only get one life, so let's make it count, and I'm super excited to dive into this new journey together. Hey there, before I jump in, I just wanted to preface this story with, you do not have to be a runner to listen to this story, because I have so many great takeaways at the end of this story to help you on your journey to achieve all your goals in life. So stay tuned until the end. So when I first turned 40, which was, believe it or not, 20 years ago, which is quite honestly, it's insane to me that 20 years ago I was 40, which makes me 60 today if you're doing the math. Anyways, I wanted to celebrate that milestone birthday just like my mentor, Oprah. I've always admired Oprah, and not because she had a talk show, but because of all the adversity she's overcome and all the achievements and how she's really a self-made success. Anyways, when Oprah turned 40, you may or may not know this, her goal was to actually run a marathon. And back then, she was not a runner. And she's always struggled with her weight. And she was not a marathon runner either. So running a marathon for her was just a big goal that she wanted to accomplish in life. And I get that because we all have those big goals, right? But anyways, so it didn't come easy for her. And I remember her watching her run it. And towards the end of the race, she was struggling, and I could see that she was in tremendous pain. And most people would think, seeing someone in that much pain, right, running a marathon, like, why would I want to put myself through that? Why would I want to run a marathon like Oprah? But anyways, she finished in 4 hours and 29 minutes. Now, if you're not a runner, that's actually a pretty good time for a first-time marathon runner. Actually, it's a great time for a first-time marathon runner. Anyway, I was so inspired by her achieving that one big goal in her life. That's when I declared that I wanted to be just like Oprah, the woman who inspires and empowers me each and every day. And I decided when I was 29 that I made it my big goal to run a marathon when I turned 40, just like Oprah. And to be honest, that goal was so far off for me because, like I said, I was only 29 years old. So it didn't even feel real when I set that goal in my life. Now, here's the thing. You would think because I made that big goal for myself that I would have started training for a marathon for the next 11 years. Or at least a few years before I turned 40. But newsflash, nope, I didn't. Because I was just a casual runner at the time. I would run like a mile or two here or there, And it was really more for fun and exercise, and definitely not for marathon training. So fast forward to my big milestone birthday of 40, which I turned 40 in January. My birthday is actually January 30th. So I turned 40 early in the year. And I was living in New York City. And of course, I remembered my big goal of running a marathon when I turned 40. So in the spring of that year, I applied for the New York City Marathon. But I'll be honest with you, I really didn't think I would get in because they get thousands and thousands of applicants from all over the world. And they pick people based on a lottery system. And so I knew I had a really slim chance of getting in because I had also heard so many stories from other New Yorkers who said that they applied several years in a row and they didn't even make it in. And these were real runners, like they run marathons. So I didn't really think I'd make it in on my first try. So anyways, months passed and I didn't hear a word from them either way. Like I didn't hear you're in or you're out. And then in June of that year, to my shock and surprise, the news came that, oh my God, I got in. I got into the New York City Marathon and I could not believe it. I was so excited. My first time applying and I was in. I couldn't believe I made it into the New York City Marathon, the race that everyone wants to run, but few were able to, right? But that's when my excitement started to turn to fear. Because reality started to hit me like a ton of bricks. And the truth is, the most I had ever run in my life was 7 miles. And get this is when I was only 18 years old and was living in San Francisco, and I ran the Beta Breakers in San Francisco. And it was 7 miles, not even close to what a marathon is. And if you don't know how many miles a marathon is 26.2 miles. So if you're doing the math, when I ran that 7 miles when I was 18, that was a long time ago. Back when I was 40, that was 22 years ago. And the first thought that popped into my head was, oh my God, now I have to train for this marathon. No, really, I need to train for this marathon. But there was one problem. If you know anything about training for a marathon, I was starting kind of late in the game. Because remember, I didn't find out that I made it into the marathon until June. I was starting to train in June, and the marathon was the first weekend in November. So I didn't have that much time to train. And to be honest, I didn't even know how far at this point I could actually run. So I started running in Central Park because I lived on the Upper West Side right by Central Park. And I started off running a few miles a couple of times a week. And after a few weeks, I decided to test myself and run the actual full loop in Central Park, which is actually 6 miles. And I was like, well, this will be a test to see if I can really, reach my goal of running a marathon. If I can't do that, then how am I going to run a marathon, right? So I ran the full loop, which is 6 miles, and I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. But the good news was I finished. But I was so exhausted and dehydrated. But at least I knew if I could run 6 miles, I could work myself up to get to the 26.2, even though there was still a far distance between the two, the difference between 6 and 26.2. But I realized that, you know what? You have 4 more months to increase your training. And I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. I had no formal training on how to run a marathon. So I kind of just winged my training program. I kind of started reading some books and I started to just try and figure it out. I didn't even hire a coach or a trainer to do it. I just started, like I said, winging it on my own. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that summer, I had a 2-week trip to Italy planned with several friends who were not runners. And so when I went to Italy, I'll be honest, I did not want to train when I was in Italy. All I wanted to do, because Italy is my favorite country, is I wanted to eat and drink my way through Italy. But I made a commitment to myself. I said, Suzanne, if you're going to run this marathon, you got to train. You got to train even when you're in Italy. So I did. And here's what I did. I ran on the rural roads where I had no idea where they went. I was running blindly. And this is back when we didn't even have smartphones. So it wasn't like I could track things. We only had flip phones, and I didn't even take my phone with me when I went running. And so literally, I was going and running blindly. I had no idea where I was going or how to get back. And if I got lost, guess what? I didn't speak Italian. So I wouldn't be able to ask somebody, how do I get back to blah, 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 right? And on one run along the countryside, a loose dog chased me down a deserted road. And no one was there to save me. But I kept running. I kept going. So fast forward to the month before the marathon. So now we're at the point where I think the most I had run a month before the marathon was like 18 miles, which is great, right? But after all my training, I had a slight chronic pain in my foot when I would run. But it wasn't bad enough. The injury wasn't bad enough to pull out of the marathon. But I will tell you, it was definitely worrisome. Like I was like, I don't know if this foot is going to make it through to the end. And it was worrisome enough where I was like, oh God, what if I don't make it through to the end? Now, when most people run a marathon, they go for time. Like I remember when I was planning on running this marathon and talking to people, they were like, oh, I want to finish under 4 hours, or I want to finish by this time and blah, blah, blah. And people would ask me what my goal was in running this marathon. But I was different. I didn't go for time. My only goal was to just finish. Number one, because I wanted to achieve that big goal that I set for myself to run a marathon on my 40th year. But also because I knew this would be the one and only marathon I would ever run. And I knew if I didn't finish, I would have to run another one because I would want to achieve that goal. So I had to finish. So on marathon day, as I ran through the streets of New York City, which was so energizing, by the way, because the New York City Marathon is a big deal and the crowds really energize you and it's so much fun. But when I hit it was like mile 10 and I was in Queens, my calf unexpectedly seized up and I had to stop to stretch it out. And I was in so much pain. I didn't know how I was going to make it the rest of the way, the 16.2 more miles, right? But I kept stretching it out. And then I kept running along the way. And then when I finally got to the Bronx, and that was about mile 18, that's when I hit what runners call the wall. At mile 18, I hit the wall. And all I could think about was, I want to stop. I want to quit. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can finish. And as I kept running through the streets, and I literally felt, and this is bringing me back to that time where I started to feel like the walls were closing in on me. It was so overwhelming and exhausting. And from that point on, believe it or not, it was less about the physical part of making it to the finish line, but it was more about the mental mindset to get me through the pain and determination to the finish line. And when I finally got to Central Park with the finish line in sight, it was like 200 feet away. I could still see it to this day. The unthinkable happened. I was so close to the finish line and my calf completely seized up and I had to stop literally dead in my tracks. Like I literally stopped. I wasn't even moving an inch and I couldn't run another step. So, of course, I tried to massage my leg to loosen it up, to get the knot out, to get the cramp out, but it wasn't working. And all these people on the sidelines were cheering me on, saying, you could do it, keep going. But I could barely even walk. But again, I was so close to the finish line. And at that moment, I pulled together every bit of energy and determination I had left in me. And I pulled myself back up to run across the finish line. And I finished in 5 hours and 5 minutes. Now, while I didn't break any records in marathon times, right? I did what I set out to do. I accomplished my goal. I finished. And that's when I broke down and cried. And I broke down and cried not from the pain I was feeling. And trust me, after you run a marathon, you feel a lot of pain in all parts of your body. But I cried from accomplishing one of my biggest and hardest goals in life. It was a goal that I set for myself that scared me. It was a goal that I ran through and accomplished through all the pain and my mind telling me that I wanted to quit. A goal that at first terrified me. A goal that at first I didn't know if I could do. A goal to just finish, and I did. And to this day, I still apply everything I learned from this experience to never give up, even when it gets hard, and to just focus on finishing. So let me share life lessons from the finish line, my biggest takeaways. So here's what you can learn from my marathon story. And please keep in mind, like I mentioned at the beginning, you do not have to be a runner to apply my biggest takeaways to your own life in achieving your biggest goals. So number one, your biggest goals will scare you, and they should. Anything that stretches you, that really matters to you, will bring up fear. It's totally normal. But don't let that stop you. Let that guide you. Because fear often points you right toward your next chapter of growth. Okay, number 2. Start before you're ready. So many people try to have the perfect plan in place before they get started. I didn't have the perfect plan in place. In fact, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't fully trained, but I showed up anyways. And sometimes that's what it takes. You don't need to have it all figured out to begin. But you do need to just start and take the first step. Number 3, it's not about finishing first, it's about finishing. We all feel this need to get things done quickly and perfectly. If you're a perfectionist like me, you probably feel the same way. But here's the thing. The real courage is in staying when things get messy, painful, or uncertain. And guess what? They will. I guarantee it. Just finishing on your own terms will be a success and a win in your book. Number 4, your mind will try to stop you. I'm going to say this again because it's so true. I've learned this not only from running the marathon, but also in my own business and other goals that I've tried to achieve in life, is your mind will try to stop you. Like for me in the marathon, at mile 18, I hit what runners call the wall. And from that point on, it was all my mental mindset that carried me through to the finish line. And the same is true in life, is your mindset can either hold you back or it can carry you through. So it's important to trust your inner strength because it's there even when you doubt that you can achieve it. Okay, we have 3 more. So number 5, keep going one step at a time. So no matter what, progress is progress. Even the smallest steps forward will build your confidence and momentum. Don't underestimate what you can do by simply not giving up. Number 6, pain is temporary. Pride in yourself lasts forever. So crossing that finish line wasn't about being the fastest for me. It was about refusing to quit on myself. And that kind of pride, that stays with you. And still to this day, it's one of the proudest moments in my life, 20 years later. And number 7, you are more capable than you think. Look, I didn't believe I could even run a marathon until I did. Because remember, before the marathon, the most I had ever run in my life was 7 miles, and that was when I was 18. So whatever goal is tugging at your heart, trust that the strength is already inside you, and that's what will pull you forward through to the finish line. So I have a question for you. I would really love to know, what's your next big goal? What's your next big goal in life that kind of scares you, but you're going to do it anyway? Put it out there into the universe. Say it out loud and send me an email and let me know what that is. I read each and every email and I can't wait to hear what your next big goal is. Hey there, if your next big goal in life is something you've been thinking about, but you haven't taken that first step yet, I want you to know something super important. You don't have to do it all alone. Whatever it is, whether you're starting over, making a big change in your life, or just simply figuring out what's next, I promise you this journey gets so much easier and honestly way more fun when you're surrounded by women who truly get it and are on the same journey as you are. And that's exactly why I created the Circle of Love Sisterhood, because it's a supportive community of like-minded women in midlife who are all on their own path to living their best and boldest life. If you're ready to go after your big goals in life and finally do it with real connection, real friendships, and support that lifts you up, head on over to SuzanneOshima.com/waitlist and join the waitlist to join the Circle of Love Sisterhood. And you'll be the first to know when the doors open again this fall, and I can't wait to welcome you in.